It's the season of rain, which is associated with a lot of romantic mood, unless you live in Kolkata, in which case it's associated with a lot of waterlogging. But anyway, moving aside from social issues, let's go into the world of fiction and a little bit of non-fiction today as we talk about some beautiful books I've read lately and some other books that I'll recommend to you in case you want to fill your library with some romantic, loving reads because maybe your life lacks love or you just want to feel it deeper within you. No matter what the case, I'm pretty sure you're gonna love it today's book recommendations, and without any further ado, let's get started with today's video. The first book that I'll recommend, and this is such a unique book that I want to recommend you guys. It's called Ronit and Jameel, and this is a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. I'm listening to it in the audiobook format, but this is such a beautiful book, you guys. It's written like a play only, but it's a reimagining of Romeo and Juliet in the current Israel-Palestine conflict. So basically there's a fence, and on one side of the fence lives Israeli Ronit, and on the other side lives Jameel, who's from Palestine, and their love blossoms. And of course, because of the conflict, it's not really that simple. So the thing that I really liked about this novel is that all of us know what Romeo and Juliet is about, but the way the author has presented it in current socio-economic political context is mind-blowing. I really loved the presentation. The narration is also good. It's very authentic to where the story is set, which is why I really like this novel, play, whatever you call it. Would highly recommend it in case you want to read something very refreshing. And yes, this is gonna be my first recommendation to you today. The second one, and this is the only non-English book that I'll recommend today, and this is a Hindi book, one of my most favorite books ever written in the romance genre, and this is called Gunahon Ka Devta. By the way, in case you're wondering that, oh Saheli, these are great books that you've recommended, but how do I read them for very affordable prices? Well, I got you. You can get Storytel subscription, and it's gonna cost you less than half of the regular price if you use my special link in the description. Now, why should you go for Storytel? Simply because buying all the books I recommend, or even like 2 or 3 of these books I recommend, can easily cost you between 300 to 500. But Storytel subscription, which is much less than the cost of each and every single book, not only gives you that particular book, but also lakhs of other books. So literally for less than 150 rupees a month, you could be reading as many books as you want, and Storytel's collection is so huge, I'm pretty sure you cannot finish it even in your whole lifetime. My favorite thing about Storytel is that I can read books even if I'm busy with chores, even if I'm doing yoga. So that gives me at least 2 or 3 hours of extra reading every week, because I lead a very hectic life with multiple businesses and even studying. So I hope that this helps you, and the link to get a very affordable rate on Storytel will be in the description. Check it out, and yes, thank me later. Coming back, we were talking about Gunahon Ka Devta. Gunahon Ka Devta by Dharmveer Bharti is one of my favorite books ever. In case you cannot read Hindi, there is an English version called Chandar and Sudha that you can read, but of course in translation it does lose a little bit of its flavor. Gunahon Ka Devta is also one of the very few books I actually ended up reading in its original Hindi form. It's also there on Storytel, by the way. So what I really love about Gunahon Ka Devta, apart from the social commentary, is the ending. It's one of the most beautiful endings in the whole canon of Hindi literature. I believe that the way Dharmveer Bharti wrote, no one really can match it, and he's definitely very underrated compared to some other Indian authors today. So I highly encourage. Oops, my camera suddenly stopped recording, but here I am back. So yes, I was talking about Gunahon Ka Devta, and it's definitely one of the reads I'll recommend to everyone who loves reading about romantic tragedy, because let's face it, fun romantic novels are just no fun. The next book that I'll recommend is one of the classics of romance. I'm pretty sure I've recommended it before, many other people have recommended it before, but it's called Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. My girls read it for fun. My boys read it as a manual on how not to talk to a girl. This book follows Darcy, who is like an immensely rich guy, and there's Bingley too, who is again an immensely rich guy, and this family of 5 girls, and the very overbearing mother who really wants one of her daughters to get married. Like, if it were up to her, she would actually get like more of her daughters married to the same guy, but that wasn't legal, I guess, back then. So the mother has only one objective in life: get her daughters married. The daughters have their own personalities, at least most of them do. We talked about a few fiction reads. Let's talk about non-fiction now. I recently read a book called A Book About Love, and it's a very, very academic read. In case you are a very studious person, you like books that are more like textbooks than fiction novels, you're definitely gonna enjoy this book a lot. The introduction is not very good for this book, to be honest, because it is a little bit misleading. It doesn't seem like this book is gonna be so academic from the cover or even from the first couple of chapters, I believe, but it's definitely very academic. In case you want to read the psychology behind love, parenting, why we get attracted to people, does love even exist, you're definitely gonna love this book. One of the most interesting things I read about, or the people I found out about in this book, was Watson. His name is John Broadus Watson, and he didn't believe in love. He was one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century. So here's what he says: if love were real, then it must be measurable, a cause with tangible effects. But Watson concluded that love was not like that. It could not be held in the hand or weighed on a scale. And so he declared it an empty cliche, as useless as poetry. Poetry is not useless, Mr. Watson. I am deeply hurt by your statement. And also, love can't be measured. That doesn't mean that doesn't exist. For example, look at this guy in my DM. Anyway, this book was definitely a very interesting read. I really enjoyed it. It was very different from the majority amount of books that I've read in the non-fiction of romance and love, and I've read quite a few. So I hope that you will give this a read, and yes, please do enjoy this beautiful book. This is only available in the textbook format, but I think books like this, I'm more inclined towards actually reading them than listening to them. So yes, I hope that you will like this as well. The next book that I'll recommend is a very interesting read, and I wonder why I've not heard much about this book before. It's called The Flat Share. It's the story of Tiffy and Leon. Tiffy has been looking for a flatmate and Leon needs money, so they decide to flat share. But due to the turn of events, they don't really see each other. They just stick around, post-it notes and communicate with each other, but they don't meet for a long time. And I really like the plot of this book, the way the love blossomed in this book. Both of them came from their own problematic relationships and problems, and it was just such a different type of a read. Although I do think I cannot imagine sharing a space with someone and not even seeing them, but although it's a little bit on the oh, this can't even happen side, I think it's a very refreshing read in case you want to read something very different from oh, girl loves boy, boy loves girl, what happens next kind of books in the romance category. If we are talking about romance, how can we not talk about Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe? This is one of the best books that you can read in your lifetime. It's so heartwarming. It's going to leave you feeling really good about yourself and your life, and you'll really feel like you got to know two people so deeply that actually are technically fictional, but they're so relatable that you'll love this book. This is one of the books that I think no matter how much I talk about, it's too less, so definitely give this a read. Another book that I do recommend is also called Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's such an interesting read, and when you actually start reading this book, you stop judging Evelyn Hugo. Like, I know that you're judging her right now just from the title, but the plot is like really good. I'm not gonna reveal it to you, but she has her own reasons for having seven husbands, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna like it in the non-murderous way for sure. In case you're more interested in the murder of the seven husbands, why don't you read Seven Husbands of Susanna by Ruskin Bond? And yes, that will be all for today's video. I hope that you liked these recommendations. I'm also gonna give you some bonus recommendations in books that I wanna read, and I'll also tell you exactly why. So yes, the first book that I want to read is called You Can Be Right or You Can Be Married, Looking for Love in the Age of Divorce. The only reason I want to read it is, I don't know, I like the title. I have no plans of marriage, let alone divorce, so I don't know. I sometimes get interested in books that have zero relation to me. Please let me know if you can relate. Another book that I really want to read is called The Little Tea Shop in Tokyo, and I'm not ashamed to admit that the reason I want to do this is because the cover is really really pretty. I mean, that's a very valid reason to want to read a book. One of the books that I thought I would read is called Get the Guy, which is basically how girls can get guys they want or something like that, I guess, by Matthew Hussey, who's a very popular YouTuber. So yeah, I really wanted to read this book, but then I realized that I'm too good to have to learn these things to get a guy. So yeah, I'm gonna give this a skip. Instead, I added the Mad Kyoto Shoe Shopper in my to-do list or to-read list because the title again was really interesting. Lately, I've been choosing a lot of books less on the blurbs and on reviews and more on instincts, and honestly, it's giving me much better reads than I have read ever before. I hope that you like these recommendations. You can also read some more bonus recommendations from people in our community. So if you want to recommend books to others in our community, please leave your recommendations in the comments below, and I will make sure that I get your message across. But some of the books would be The Bright Testers, The Unhoneymooners. These are books that I have seen multiple times in my community, in my Facebook group, in my YouTube comments, and I'm pretty sure that if your fellows are recommending these must be really good books. Once again, in case you enjoyed today's video and you want to read all these books for very affordable rates, make sure that you check the link in my description to get a huge discount on Storytel's subscription. And yes, I hope that you liked today's video. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, and I'll be back with another recommendation very soon. Till my next video, bye bye.